The rain-slicked alley in Seattle's Capitol Hill pulsed with the erratic thump of Elena Reyes's heart, louder than the distant wail of sirens cutting through the downpour. She crouched behind a dumpster, Glock steady in her grip, the metallic tang of gun oil mixing with the sour rot of overflowing trash bins. Her world narrowed to the shadowed figure ahead, a dealer with a twitchy knife glint under the sodium street lamp. "Riley, flank left," she whispered into her radio. Voice gravel rough from too many late nights chasing ghosts in this godforsaken city, but her partner's name rolled off her tongue like a secret prayer, soft and unintended. Riley Harper didn't hesitate, boots splashing through puddles that mirrored the fractured neon signs of dive bars and coffee shops lining the street. At 28, she was all fire and freckles, her Irish roots showing in the stubborn curl of her auburn hair plastered to her forehead, uniform clinging like a second skin after the storm's betrayal. She loved this beat, the pulse of Seattle's underbelly, where queer kids like her found shadows to hide in, and straight-laced types like the brass pretended not to notice. But tonight, as she edged closer to the dealer, her mind snagged on Elena's voice, that low timbre wrapping around her ribs like smoke from the precinct's ancient coffee urn. Why did it always feel like Elena was pulling her in deeper than any foot pursuit? The dealer spun, knife arcing wild, and Riley lunged, her shoulder slamming into his gut with a grunt that echoed off brick walls, the impact jarring her teeth. He hit the ground hard, concrete scraping his jacket, and Elena was there in a blur, knee pinning his wrist, cuffs snapping like a judge's gavel. "Got him," Elena said, breath coming in sharp bursts, her dark eyes locking on Riley's for a beat too long. In that suspended second, rain dripped from Elena's lashes onto her collarbone, tracing a path Riley's gaze followed without shame, heat blooming low in her belly despite the chill. The dealer groaned, but neither woman moved, the air thick with unspoken static, the kind that crackled after a close call, or maybe something more dangerous. Back at the station, the fluorescent buzz overhead hummed like a migraine as they processed the arrest. Elena peeled off her soaked jacket, revealing the faint scar snaking across her shoulder from a bullet that grazed her 5 years back when she was still proving she belonged in a blue uniform that itched against her skin in more ways than one. 32 going on 40, she clawed her way to sergeant in a department that eyed her Latina fire with suspicion, her parents' old-world expectations from East LA clashing with this rainy Pacific Northwest exile. She poured coffee from the communal pot, the bitter steam curling up to sting her eyes, and slid a mug toward Riley without a word. "You good?" Elena asked, leaning against the desk, her voice dipping into that husky register that made Riley's pulse stutter. Riley nodded, fingers wrapping around the mug, the warmth seeping through ceramic like Elena's rare half-smiles. Fleeting, but enough to chase away the damp cold clinging to her bones. "Yeah, just. That knife came too close." She sipped, the burn grounding her, but her eyes traced the way Elena's shirt clung to her curves, the subtle rise and fall of her chest. Riley had grown up in the suburbs of Tacoma, daughter of a cop dad who drilled duty into her like Morse code, but she'd always known she bent toward women, toward the soft strength in a glance shared over patrol logs. Elena was her partner for 6 months now, assigned after a precinct shuffle, and every shift felt like walking a tightrope over the sound, thrilling, terrifying, inevitable. They debriefed in the bullpen, voices overlapping with the clatter of keyboards and the low murmur of night shift chatter. Captain Hargrove loomed in the doorway, his mustache twitching like a live wire. "Reyes Harper solid takedown. But keep it clean." IA sniffing around after that mess in Pioneer Square last week. His eyes lingered on them, heavy with the unspoken rule. No fraternizing, especially not the kind that raised eyebrows in a locker room full of good old boys. Elena felt the weight of it settle in her gut, a familiar knot. She'd buried deeper feelings before. After Maria, her academy flame, who ghosted when the job demanded too much. But Riley laughed at her dry jokes, backed her plays without question, and in quiet moments like now as they lingered over paperwork, Elena caught herself wondering what Riley's hand would feel like laced with hers, away from the blue wall. The clock ticked past midnight, the station emptying to echoes. Riley stretched, vertebrae popping softly, and Elena's gaze flicked to the elegant line of her neck, exposed as she tilted her head. "Walk you to your car?" Elena offered, casual as rain, but her throat tightened around the words. Outside, the lot gleamed under security lights, puddles reflecting the Space Needle's distant glow like a promise unkept. They paused by Riley's beat-up Civic, engine ticking cool in the night air. "Hey," Riley said, turning, her breath visible in the crisp bite. "Thanks for having my back. Always." Her eyes, green as the evergreens lining I-5, held Elena's, and for a heartbeat the world narrowed. No sirens, no rules, just the pull between them, magnetic and merciless. Elena's fingers twitched, brushing Riley's sleeve, the fabric damp and real under her touch. "Couldn't do it without you, kid." The endearment slipped out, tender and teasing, and Riley's laugh bubbled up, low and warm, chasing the chill. They stood there, inches apart, the scent of Elena's citrus shampoo mingling with Riley's faint vanilla lotion, until a patrol car roared past, headlights slicing the moment like a blade. Elena stepped back first, jaw clenching. "Drive safe." Riley nodded, sliding into the seat, but as she pulled away, her rearview held Elena's silhouette, strong, solitary, burning into her like a brand. Days blurred into the relentless rhythm of the job. Foot patrols through Pike Place's fish-tossing chaos, where the salty brine of the market mixed with the ache in Elena's temples from endless stakeouts. Domestic calls in Belltown apartments reeking of stale takeout and regret. Riley's voice soothing victims with that innate empathy Elena envied. They synced like gears in a well-oiled revolver. Elena's calculated precision tempering Riley's bold instincts. But the undercurrent grew, tidal and insistent. During a midnight shift, huddled in the cruiser outside a suspect's walk-up, the radio crackled with static, and Riley's knee pressed against Elena's thigh in the tight space. Neither pulled away. The heat built, unspoken, until Elena cleared her throat, the sound rough in the cabin's hush. "You ever think about getting out? After this gig?" Riley turned, dashboard glow casting her face in ethereal blue. "Sometimes. But then, I think about the why. Protecting our own, you know? The ones like us who don't fit the mold." Her words hung, laced with the quiet truth of their shared glances in the women's locker room. The way Riley's eyes lingered on Elena changing shifts. Elena swallowed, the confession bubbling too close to the surface. "Yeah, the ones like us." The engine idled low, a purr mirroring the tension coiling in her chest, and outside, Seattle's foghorn moaned from the harbor, a lonely call across the water. Their first real fracture came on a Thursday, gray skies pressing down like a thumb on the city's throat. They were canvassing a string of queer bashings in the bars along Broadway. Brutal hits leaving kids with broken jaws and trust shattered like bottled glass. Elena stormed into the velvet rope, a dive with rainbow flags frayed at the edges, the air thick with spilled beer and the throb of indie bass. "Who saw it?" she barked at the bartender, badge flashing like judgment. Riley hung back, interviewing a trembling barback, her touch light on his arm, coaxing details with whispers that made Elena's jaw ache from clenching. Later in the cruiser, Riley's voice cracked the silence. "Ease up, Elena. These folks, they're scared. Pushing won't help." Elena's hands gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the relentless drizzle. "Scared? Try furious. Some punk's out there thinking he can hunt us like animals." The S slipped out, raw and revealing, and Riley's breath hitched, a soft inhale that filled the cab. "Us?" she echoed, testing the word, her fingers drumming on her thigh, close enough to Elena's to spark if friction ignited. The drive back stretched, charged, until they parked in the lot, engine dying with a sigh. Elena turned, her face inches from Riley's, the space between them humming like a live wire. "I can't lose you to this shit," she murmured, eyes dark with a storm neither had named. Riley's hand rose, hesitant, cupping Elena's cheek, thumb tracing the faint stubble shadow along her jaw. Skin to skin, electric, the world outside faded. The rain's patter, the distant rumble of the monorail, all drowned in the rush of blood in Elena's ears. Their lips met, tentative at first, then fierce, Elena's fingers threading into Riley's wet hair, pulling her closer. It tasted of coffee and desperation, of 6 months of stolen looks and shared silences exploding into flame. Riley moaned softly, a sound that vibrated through Elena's core, hands roaming under jackets, seeking warmth in the cold night. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling in white puffs. Us, Riley whispered, voice wrecked. It's real. But reality crashed back like a squad car at Code 3. Headlights swept the lot. Another unit pulling in, and they sprang apart, hearts hammering. Elena straightened her collar, the ghost of Riley's touch burning like contraband. We can't, she said, voice steel over silk. Not here. Not like this. Riley nodded, eyes glistening, but as she walked to her car, the distance between them felt like a chasm, widening with every unspoken rule. Weeks clawed by in a haze of denial and duty, Seattle's autumn leaves turning the gutters to crimson slush under their tires. Elena threw herself into the bashings case, poring over blurry CCTV footage in the dim squad room, the glow of her monitor casting hollow shadows under her eyes. She ignored the way her body ached for Riley's proximity, the brush of hips in the hallway, the accidental graze of fingers over a shared donut box, flaky crumbs scattering like confetti from a party neither attended. At home in her cramped queen and walk-up, Elena paced the scarred hardwood, the scent of her abuela's tamale recipe lingering from a microwave attempt, but it soured in her mouth. Sleep evaded her, replaced by replays of that kiss. Riley's lips soft yet demanding, her nails digging crescents into Elena's back through wool. Riley fared no better, crashing at her sister's in Fremont after shifts, the fairy horns from Lake Union a mournful undershirt to her tossing nights. She scrolled through old photos on her phone, academy grads, arms slung casual, but her thumb lingered on one of Elena midlaugh at a precinct barbecue, wind tousling her black waves, eyes crinkled with rare joy. Riley's family knew her truth. Her mom had cried once, then hugged her tighter, passing down her dad's old fishing rod as if it could reel in acceptance. But the job? It was her anchor, and Elena her compass, pointing true north even as policies veered them off course. She texted Elena late one night, thumbs hovering. Miss your voice on the radio. Sent. Then deleted the thread, heart pounding like a suspect's against cuffs. Their partnership strained under the weight, cracks spiderwebbing like frost on the cruiser's windshield. On a stakeout in the International District, parked amid the steam of folk carts and the sizzle of stir-fries, tension simmered hotter than the food smells wafting through vents. Eyes on the door, Elena snapped as Riley fidgeted, boot-tapping in anxious Morse. The suspect, a low-level enforcer linked to the bashings, slipped out, and they tailed him through alleyways reeking of fish markets and exhaust. Riley radioed backup, her voice steady, but when they cornered him behind a noodle shop, he bolted, syringe glinting in his fist like a stinger. The chase pounded through backstreets, lungs burning with the bite of cold air laced with garlic and ginger. Elena vaulted a fence, landing with a jolt that sang up her shins, but Riley tripped on loose gravel, sprawling with a sharp cry, pain lancing her ankle like fire. Shit! She hissed, rolling to her side, the enforcer's footsteps fading into the night. Elena doubled back, dropping beside her, hands framing Riley's face, thumbs sweeping tears from dirt-streaked cheeks. Talk to me, Elena urged, voice fracturing, the world narrowing to Riley's labored breaths, each one a knife twist in her chest. Up close, Riley smelled of sweat and resolve, her green eyes wide with vulnerability that punched Elena square. It's just twisted, Riley gasped, but her hand clutched Elena's wrist, anchoring them both. Sirens wailed closer, backup converging, but in that stolen bubble Elena leaned in, forehead to Riley's, inhaling the ragged rhythm of her exhale. I've got you, she promised, the words a vow heavier than any oath sworn at the academy. Paramedics arrived, lights pulsing red-blue against graffiti walls, and as they loaded Riley onto the gurney, their fingers tangled briefly, secrets searing. Elena rode in the ambulance, silent sentinel, watching Riley's chest rise and fall under the thin blanket, the beeps of monitors a mechanical lullaby. At Harborview the ER hummed with fluorescent urgency. Beeps, moans, the sharp tang of antiseptic clashing with vending machine coffee. Elena paced the hall, uniform rumpled, calling Hargrove with updates that stuck like gravel in her throat. Harper's fine, sprain. But the runner's in the wind. His grunt carried the subtext. Tighten up, Reyes. No room for slips. When Riley emerged, crutch under one arm, bandage peeking from her pant leg, Elena's relief crashed over her like Puget Sound waves. "You scared the hell out of me," Elena admitted in the elevator, voice low, the descent mirroring her spiraling control. Riley's laugh was breathy, pained. "Join the club." The doors dinged open to the parking garage, echoey and dim, tires squealing faintly from levels above. They paused by Elena's truck, Riley leaning heavy on the crutch, and the air thickened again, that pull inexorable. "Elena," Riley started, voice threading with need. "We can't keep pretending. That kiss. It wasn't a fluke." Elena's back hit the truck door, cool metal grounding her as Riley closed the gap, crutch clattering forgotten. Their mouths crashed together, hungry, hands fumbling with zippers and buttons in the shadows. Riley's gasp muffled against Elena's neck as fingers traced collarbones, dipped lower. The garage's chill nipped at exposed skin, but heat bloomed where they touched. Riley's thigh pressing between Elena's palm cupping Riley's breast through lace, eliciting a whimper that echoed off concrete pillars. They stilled at footsteps. Another shift change, and disentangled breaths, ragged clothes askew. Riley's eyes shone, defiant. "Your place or mine?" Elena's nod was immediate, primal. At Elena's apartment, the door barely clicked shut before clothes pooled on the floor, bodies colliding on the rumpled bed. Riley's skin was silk over steel, freckles mapping constellations. Elena kissed like stars, shoulder, hip, the dip of her navel. Moans filled the room, low and fervent, the headboard thumping a staccato against thin walls, drowned by the distant rumble of the 99 bus. Elena tasted salt on Riley's inner thigh, her own name a plea on Riley's lips, and when release came it shattered them both, waves crashing, leaving driftwood in their wake. Tangled sheets, sweat-slick limbs, the quiet sob of Riley's afterglow confession. "I love you," she whispered into Elena's hair, fingers tracing the scar on her shoulder. Elena held her tighter, throat burning. "God, Riley. Me too." Dawn crept through blinds, painting their entwined forms in slats of gold. Elena woke to Riley's soft snores, her head pillowed on Elena's chest, the steady thump of heartbeats syncing like partners on a call. Coffee brewed in the kitchenette, its rich aroma pulling them up, mugs steaming as they sat cross-legged on the floor, backs to the couch. "What now?" Riley asked, tracing Elena's knuckles, the vulnerability in her eyes a fresh wound. Elena sipped, the bitterness mirroring her fear. The department's zero tolerance, whispers in the locker room, the risk to Riley's career before it peaked. "We play it smart. Partners on the job, everything else off the clock." But even as she said it, doubt coiled serpentine. The case heated up that week, leads pointing to a ring of off-duty cops moonlighting as enforcers for a local syndicate, bashings as warnings to keep the freaks in line. Elena and Riley dove in, poring over manifests in the evidence locker, the air musty with old paper and gunpowder residue. Their touches lingered. A hand on the small of the back guiding through files, a knee nudge under the table, electric undercurrents no one else clocked. But Hargrove called them in, his office reeking of cheap cigars, desk buried under styrofoam cups. "Reyes, your lead on this. Harper rides along when she's cleared. But watch your six. This hits close." His gaze sharpened, as if scenting the shift in their orbit. Elena met it steady, Riley's presence at her shoulder a silent bolster. Nights blurred into lovers' territory. Stolen dinners at Riley's sister's kitchen table, where Elena charmed with stories of Ellie Street tacos, the clink of forks punctuating laughter. Slow dances in Elena's living room to Coulter Wall's gravel twang on vinyl, bodies swaying to lyrics of Outlaws and Heartache, Riley's breath hot on Elena's ear. Intimacy deepened, fingers exploring scars, both literal and etched in whispers. Elena's buried rage at her father's deportation fears, Riley's coming out fistfight with her brother under stadium lights. Each revelation bound them tighter, a rope bridge over the abyss of exposure. But the abyss gaped wider during a raid on a warehouse in Soto, the industrial sprawl humming with freight trains' distant moans. Intel pegged it as the ring's hub, crates of contraband, ledgers naming dirty badges. Elena geared up in the pre-dawn gloom, Kevlar hugging her like a jealous lover, Riley mirroring her across the staging lot, eyes fierce behind her vest. "Stay tight," Elena murmured, gloved hand squeezing Riley's bicep, the squeeze lingering a fraction too long. Sweat breached with flashbangs popping like fireworks. Acrid smoke billowing. Shouts ricocheting off metal beams. They cleared rooms methodically, pulses sinking to the adrenaline rush, until a side door burst, two enforcers' faces masked, pistols barking. Bullets whined, pinging girders, and Elena shoved Riley behind a pallet, the crack of gunfire deafening her world. "Down!" she roared, returning fire, her shot clipping one assailant's shoulder, blood blooming dark on canvas. The second lunged, tackling Elena to the grit-strewn floor. His weight crushing, fist connecting with her ribs in a dull thud that expelled her air. Pain bloomed, white-hot, but Riley was there. Crutch discarded from med-leave, she swung her baton like a homer, cracking his knee with a sickening snap. He howled, crumpling, and backup swarmed, cuffing him amid the chaos. Elena coughed, tasting copper, Riley's hands frantic on her face, smearing soot and tears. "Elena, talk to me." The warehouse spun, sirens converging outside like a swarm. But Elena focused on Riley's voice, her touch lifeline in the fray. "I'm okay," she rasped, pulling Riley down into a fierce embrace amid the settling dust, heart hammering against heart. In that crush of bodies in blue with radios crackling orders, Elena realized hiding wasn't survival. It was slow suffocation. The aftermath hit like a hangover after a bender, bruises blooming purple on Elena's ribs. Each breath a rasp against the warehouse's phantom grit still lodged in her lungs. Harborview again, this time with Hargrove pacing the sterile hall, his cologne cloying over iodine swabs. "You two pulled a miracle out there," he grumbled, but his eyes narrowed on their linked hands under the thin blanket, Riley's thumb circling Elena's palm in silent Morse. "I'm here." Elena tensed, the room's chill seeping through her gown, monitors beeping a steady metronome to her rising dread. "Just doing the job, Cap," she said, voice even, but inside alarms blared louder than any tack vest siren. Riley squeezed harder, her own scrapes bandaged. A gash on her forehead stitched neat, ankle braced anew. She'd refused her own room, perching on Elena's bed edge, the mattress dipping under her weight like an invitation. Hargrove cleared his throat, mustache bristling. "IA's involved now. That ring. Names on those ledgers hit home. You see anything off-book?" The question hung barbed, and Elena met his gaze, the air thickening with the unspoken. Their secret, teetering on exposure like a Jenga tower in an earthquake. "Nothing but leads, sir." He nodded, reluctant, and shuffled out, door clicking shut like a verdict deferred. Alone, the dam broke. Riley's head dropped to Elena's shoulder, a shuddering exhale escaping, half relief, half unraveling. "That was too close," she whispered, fingers tracing the 4 lines snaking Elena's arm. Cool plastic against fevered skin. Elena turned, lips brushing Riley's temple, inhaling the faint lavender of her shampoo amid hospital sterility. "Yeah, but we got him. And each other." The words anchored them, but doubt gnawed. Whispers from the case files naming colleagues, brothers in arms turned predators, made their own bond feel like contraband in a locker sweep. Discharge brought them back to Elena's apartment, the climb up creaky stairs a labored duet of winces and laughs. Seattle's skyline glittered through rain-streaked windows, the Space Needle a needle in the gray, pricking at Elena's resolve. They collapsed onto the couch, takeout container steaming, pad thai from the corner spot, noodles tangled like their limbs as they fed each other bites, sauce smudging chins, giggles bubbling up to chase shadows. Riley's fork paused midway, eyes serious over the carton. "We tell them. Or we quit pretending." Elena chewed slow, the peanut tang sharp on her tongue, heart thudding against her sternum. "It's not that simple, Ree. The department. It's a machine. Grinds down anything that doesn't fit." Riley set the food aside, shifting to straddle Elena's lap, hands framing her face, gentle, insistent. The couch springs creaked softly, a counterpoint to their breath sinking close and quick. "Then we make it fit. Us." Her kiss started soft, exploratory, lips parting Elena's with a sigh that tasted of lime and longing, deepening to something fiercer, tongues tangling, hands roaming under shirts to map familiar terrain. The curve of hip, the swell of breast, nipples pebbling under thumbs. Elena groaned into Riley's mouth, low and guttural, fingers digging into denim-clad thighs as Riley ground down, friction sparking heat that pooled low. They moved to the bedroom in a trail of shed clothes, bodies worshipful, Riley's mouth hot on Elena's collarbone, sucking marks like badges of honor. Elena's legs wrapping Riley's waist, heels pressing urging arches as she arched up, gasps filling the room with the scent of arousal and rain-damp sheets. Climax crested slow, then shattering. Riley's name a chant on Elena's lips, her own cries muffled into pillow as waves pulled them under, leaving them adrift in aftershocks, limbs heavy, hearts exposed. They lay tangled, Riley's head on Elena's chest, listening to the thunderous drum beneath. I grew up thinking love was like my dad's, quiet, steady, behind the wheel of a patrol car. Riley murmured, fingers doodling patterns on Elena's stomach. But this, it's a storm, and I want to chase it. Elena's laugh rumbled, throat tight. You're trouble, Harper. But her arms tightened, holding fast against the gale. The case cracked wide midweek, ledgers yielding a name. Officer Hale, a veteran with a mustache like Hargrove's evil twin, caught on wiretap boasting about cleaning the streets. Elena and Riley led the arrest, storming his Georgetown bungalow at dawn, the air crisp with conifer sap and betrayal's bite. Hale resisted, swinging wild, but Riley's taser dropped him twitching to the welcome mat. Coffee pot still gurgling in the kitchen like a mocking domesticity. As cuffs clicked, Hale's eyes locked on them, venomous, knowing. You two? Figures. Dyke's playing hero. The slur landed like a slap, but Elena's stance held iron. Riley's chin lifting defiant beside her. Back at the station, the bullpen buzzed, whispers slithering like smoke from the coffee urn, eyes darting their way. Hargrove pulled them into his office, door shutting with finality, the room shrinking under fluorescent glare. Talk, he said, sinking into his chair, the creak echoing like bones settling. Elena stood tall, Riley at her flank, their shoulders brushing, a united front. It's Hale's crew. But that's not why we're here. Elena started, voice steady as a drawn bead. Riley's hand found hers behind their backs, squeeze grounding. We're together, Cap partners. On and off. The confession hung air electric, Hargrove's face cycling shock to stone. He leaned forward, elbows on desk, the wood groaning. Policies clear. Fraternization's a write-up, suspension. Worse if it escalates. His eyes softened a fraction, mustache drooping. But this department, it's changing. Slowly. You two just busted a ring protecting its own ugly underbelly. Maybe. Make your case. Elena's breath caught, Riley's grip tightening like a lifeline tossed in choppy waters. They poured it out, the fear, the fire, the way their love fortified rather than fractured duty. Hargrove listened, fingers drumming, the clock ticking seconds into eternity. File the waiver. HR's a bitch, but I'll back it. Don't make me regret it. Relief flooded, sweet as the first rain break, but victory soured fast. Hale's crew retaliated that night. A drive-by at Riley's sister's place, bullets shattering the bay window, glass exploding inward like brittle ice. Riley Dove shielding her niece with a body tackle, shards slicing her palms as screams pierced the night. Elena arrived code 3, tires screeching on wet pavement, the scene a chaos of blue lights and neighbor gawkers. She found Riley in the ambulance, bloodied hands bandaged, eyes hollow with terror. They're coming for us, Riley whispered, voice frayed. The niece's cries a heartbreaking underscore from inside. Elena climbed in, ignoring protocols, cradling Riley's head to her chest, rocking gently as sirens wailed departure. Not anymore. We end this. The precinct mobilized, a full-court press. Stings, tails, the works. Elena coordinated from the war room, whiteboard scrawled with timelines, coffee rings staining edges like battle scars. Riley, cleared for desk duty, cross-reference plates, her focus laser-sharp despite the tremors in her hands. Their touches stayed chaste in public, a nod across the room, a shared water bottle, but nights at Elena's became fortresses, bodies entwined as armor, whispers of plans amid the creak of floorboards. After this, Elena murmured one dusk, lips to Riley's spine as they spooned, city lights filtering through curtains like Morse hope. We get out. Beach house in Cannon Beach. Waves, no warrants. Riley twisted, kissing her slow, deep. Promise. Swear it. Climax brewed in a derelict cannery on the waterfront. Tip line gold. Hale's remnants holing up, plotting payback. Elena geared for the op, vest buckling tight. Riley protesting from the sidelines. Desk duty my ass. Until Hargrove relented, pairing her as second. The breach was poetry and violence. Doors splintering, shouts bouncing off rusted vats reeking of brine and rust. Gunfire erupted, staccato terror. Bullets ricocheting like angry hornets. Elena cleared left, Riley right. Their radio's a lifeline. Clear. On you. But Hale emerged from shadows, pistol leveled at Riley's back. His snarl a guttural bitch. Time fractured. Elena lunged, tackling Hale mid-stride. The shot cracking wild into ceiling beams, sparks showering like fallout. They grappled on catwalk slick with condensation, metal groaning under weight, Hale's elbow cracking Elena's jaw. Stars bursting, blood metallic on her tongue. Below, Riley fired, her round grazing Hale's thigh, but he swung back, boot connecting with Elena's side. Ribs screaming anew. She rolled, dangling over the edge, void yawning black below. The sound's lap audible like a siren's lure. Hale loomed, gun pressing cold to her temple, breath fetid with rage. End of the line, Reyes. Riley screamed toward the air. No! And she charged, empty hands her weapon, slamming into Hale with desperate fury. He staggered, shot firing harmless, into foam insulation, and Elena surged up, wrenching the gun free, pistol whipping him down. Backup flooded, cuffs and medics in tow, but Elena's world tunneled to Riley, hauling her up from the brink, bodies crashing in a clutch of sobs and sweat. You idiot! Elena gasped, kissing her fierce, blood-smeared lips to Riley's, the catwalk's chill forgotten in their heat. My hero! Riley choked, hands fisting Elena's vest, holding as if release meant loss. Hale's crew crumbled in the sweep, arrests stacking like dominoes, the department's rot exposed and headlines splashed across the Seattle Times. Blue line broken. Cops in queer hate ring busted. Hargrove testified, his gruff support a shield in the inquiry, and their waiver sailed through HR, stamped with reluctant approval. But the cost lingered, Riley's nightmares waking sweat-drenched to Elena's murmurs, Elena's flinch at shadows, the scar on her psyche deeper than any bullet's kiss. Winter clamped Seattle in iron jaws, snow dusting the evergreens like powdered sugar on forgotten beignet. But spring whispered promises in the crocus buds pushing through precinct planters. Elena and Riley's relationship bloomed overt now. Hands clasped casual in the bullpen, coffee runs doubling as foreplay, Riley's laugh echoing off lockers as Elena stole kisses between shift changes. Whispers persisted, some sour, veterans muttering over poker hands in the break room, cards slapping table like judgments, but others softened, nods of quiet solidarity from the younger recruits, rainbows pinned discreet to uniforms. Hargrove even grunted approval one morning, sliding them a file on a joint task force. You two lead. Show him how it's done. Off duty they carved sanctuary. Weekends bled into road trips down Highway 101, winding through Olympics fern-choked trails, the salty tang of tide pools mingling with Riley's sunscreen scent as they hiked hand in hand, boots crunching gravel, pauses for impromptu picnics of cheese and crusty bread from roadside stands. Elena taught Riley to fish off La Push rocks, lines casting lazy arcs into surf that foamed white as their shared beers, the pull of rod mirroring the tug in Elena's chest when Riley reeled in a silver salmon, whooping triumph that dissolved into kisses tasting of brine and victory. Nights in cheap motels, neon buzzing outside like approval, they explored unhurried. Riley's fingers painting Elena's body with coconut lotion, massaging knots from tense shoulders, eliciting sighs that bloomed into moans as mouths followed hands, slow worship under threadbare sheets. Back home, domesticity woven subtle. Riley's toothbrush claiming space in Elena's holder, her hoodies draping Elena's chair like claims. Shared grocery runs to Capitol Hill markets, haggling over heirloom tomatoes, fingers brushing in produce aisles sparking grins that promised later. Elena cooked, her mom's pozole simmering on the stove, hominy popping soft, chiles warming the air. While Riley chopped cilantro, knife rhythmic stories spilling of Tacoma childhoods chasing fireflies in fields now paved for strip malls. They argued too, real and raw, over Elena's overtime obsession, Riley's voice rising sharp in the kitchen steam. You're not invincible, damn it. Ending in makeup sex against the fridge, magnets clattering, apologies gasped into skin. The real test came in June, Pride Month unfurling banners along 4th Avenue. The air electric with bass from float speakers and the sweet char of street vendors' corn dogs. Elena hesitated at the precinct lot, uniform starched crisp, rainbow pin glinting on her lapel like a dare. "We don't have to march," she said, voice edged with old ghosts. Ella riots flickering in memory, bricks through windows of her aunt's salon. Riley turned from the mirror, adjusting her own pin, eyes fierce as the parade's coming roar. "We do. For the kids we protect. For us." Her hand extended, palm up, open, unwavering, and Elena took it, threading fingers, the squeeze a pact sealed in sweat-slick anticipation. The route pulsed alive. Drag queens on stilts towering like goddesses, confetti cannons bursting pink and blue, cheers swelling from sidewalks thick with bodies, leather daddies, glittered teens, families waving flags in kaleidoscope riot. Elena and Riley marched mid-pack, badges gleaming, hands linked high, the crowd's roar washing over them like baptism. A kid, maybe 12, wide-eyed with braces and a sign reading "Future Cop," proud AF, broke from the throng to hug Riley's legs, mumbling thanks before vanishing into the press. Elena's throat tightened, tears pricking as Riley squeezed her hand harder, the bass thumping in sync with her heart, a drumbeat of belonging long denied. But shadows lingered. Hale, out on bail pending trial, surfaced in a tabloid leak. Anonymous screed emailed to brass, outing department deviants with grainy photos, Elena and Riley at a cafe, lips brushing over lattes, a blurry motel shot from their getaway. The bullpen iced over next shift, eyes averted, Hargrove's door slamming like thunder. He summoned them, face thunderous under the desk lamp's glare. "This shit, it's poison." IA's circling again. Elena's fists balled, nails biting palms, the room's air stale with threat. Riley leaned forward, voice steel. "Let them. We're clean." Hale's desperate, twisting knives 'cause we dulled his. Hargrove rubbed his temples, exhale heavy as harbor fog. "You're right. But the blowback. Brass wants heads. Voluntary transfer? Or the or hung a guillotine." Elena glanced at Riley, her profile sharp and profile light, jaw set, eyes burning. "We're staying," Elena said, the decision crystallizing like frost on glass. "But on our terms. Diversity training, policy overhaul. Make this place a shield, not a cage." Hargrove's nod was slow, grudging respect cracking his facade. "I'll push it. You two. You're the future. Don't fuck it up." The leak boomeranged. Community outrage swelled, protests outside City Hall demanding Hale's head, queer orgs rallying with petitions that hit the mayor's desk like a gavel. Elena and Riley testified at the hearing, voices steady in the oak-paneled chamber, echoes bouncing off portraits of stern white men. "We serve all," Elena said, hand under the table on Riley's knee, grounding. "Love doesn't change that." The judge's gavel fell. Hale remanded, case fast-tracked, and outside reporters swarmed, flashes popping like gunfire, but Riley pulled Elena close, kissing her full on the lips for the lenses, a statement bolder than any badge. Summer deepened their roots. They moved in together, a craftsman in Ballard, with a porch swing creaking under starlit swings, the sounds lap a nightly serenade. Elena proposed on a ferry to Bainbridge, ring slipping from her pocket mid-deck, simple gold band engraved partners forever. As gulls wheeled overhead, Riley's yes a sob swallowed in salt wind. Wedding was small. Beach at Golden Gardens, toes in sand, Hargrove officiating with gruff vows. Riley's sister toasting with champagne flutes clinking like cuffs on justice. Dresses fluttered. Elena's ivory lace hugging curves, Riley's seafoam flowing free. Their dance barefoot, waves lapping ankles, laughter mingling with surf's hush. Years layered on like patrol patina. Promotions to lieutenant for Elena, detective shield for Riley, their home filling with echoes. Adopted rescue pups paws on hardwood, photos of vacations in Palm Springs heat, where they lounged poolside, fingers laced, sunscreen slick skin baking under desert sun. Challenges came, Elena's burnout after a hostage siege, nights on the couch with Riley's head in lap, combing fingers through auburn strands as sobs racked. Riley's fertility doubts, whispered in clinic waiting rooms smelling of bleach and hope, leading to IVF roller coasters that tested but tempered them. Through it, love endured, not flawless but forged. Apologies over burnt dinners, surprise shifts covered with grins, the quiet of post-shift showers where water cascaded, washing away the day's grime, hands soaping backs in ritual care. On their 10th anniversary, back at that Capitol Hill alley, now a community garden with murals of fists raised rainbow, they stood under string lights, rain pattering leaves. "We hid once," Elena said, voice husky, pulling Riley close, the scent of wet earth in her vanilla grounding. "Never again." Riley's smile lit the dusk, eyes green as evergreens. "And look what we built." Their kiss sealed it, soft amid the drizzle, a promise etched in the city's pulse. Two women, once shadows in blue, now beacons, their love a light no policy could dim. In the end, it wasn't the chases or cuffs that defined them, but the choice to love openly, fiercely, in a world that once demanded silence. Seattle's fog lifted that night, stars pricking clear, and as they walked home arm in arm, the future stretched wide, endless as the sound, deep as the heart's quiet roar.